Happy Texas Independence Day. What's up, folks? Welcome back to Crypto Heartbeat. It is 10 a.m. Central Texas time, and it is March 2nd. On this date in 1836, a declaration was made, a declaration of independence from Mexico, and Texas on April 21st, after the Battle of San Jacinto, became an independent nation. What's up, my friends? How are you doing today? This is going to be a quick stream because it's Texas Independence Day. I'm going to be talking about the Texan token on KSB TV at 2 o'clock today, Central Time, talking about Texan token. But I'm also announcing on this stream, I'm on a boat. No, I wrote a book. A 34-page book. I had a little help from my friends. It's called Unlocking Generosity, and it is a guide to decentralized finance. You know who I thought about? You know how I thought about when I wrote this? Sam Kemp. That's who I thought about. I thought about Sam Kemp. I thought about folks who are in the Texas Nationalist Movement. This is the Texan token edition of the book. There will be other non-Texan token related editions, but this is the first one. And this really kind of culminates a lot of things that I've been thinking for a long time, but also some very, very practical things about DeFi. And so it's called Unlocking Generosity. You've heard that before. It's free, and it's in the description. So you can click on that. Globally, it's available for free, and you can download it. You can print it. You can make notes in the margin. You can do whatever you want to do with it because it is it's free. It's a gift I give to anybody who's interested. And you never know, if you read it, there may be benefits to you to reading it. Knowledge, information, you might be enlightened. Maybe not. But it's up to you. But it's a good resource, and it's something that can help people. If you know somebody in your life, you're like, hey, this person doesn't know anything about what's going on in DeFi. I really talk about it in the context of what time it is and how important this time is and what we're doing right now and why it's important. But then I also go into some very, very practical things about how do you do it? Like, how do I get into this? What about security? Like, this is all the stuff I could possibly think of that you need to know if you want a good introduction to DeFi and you want a reason that you need to be paying attention to it. So I think it's a really great primer for anyone who's kind of being introduced to the topic, as well as the crypto heartbeat kind of perspective, which is this unlocking of generosity. Okay, because I think that's what the ultimate outcome of all this stuff is that we're going to be closer in community, sharing more love. But folks, I want to get into the chat, and then I want to welcome our guest because he and I are smiling today because it's Texas Independence Day, folks, March 2nd. Aniska Sophia with the heart and the love. David Lee, all the way from Southwestern Indiana. He says, happy Texas Independence Day. ZZ Tesco in the house. Ray. This is the dev. This is the man. Francis Powell. Hello, all. Crypto Trucker. Is that a national holiday now? It is here in the Republic of Texas. Bro, what's up? Yeehaw, it is. David Lee's in the house. My online ghost. Rich Liberation. Folks, free book in the chat. Everybody's happy to see Ray Hexyquin. A special welcome to Hexyquin and a special thank you to you, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. Brandon had to call me and explain to me what happened because I didn't have any context, and so I just want to say thank you so much. You're awesome, and I just really, really appreciate it. Had it not been, honestly, for your clip, congratulations on the new book. Yeah, my first book, Unlocking Generosity. It's a really good introduction. It's got a section on Texan token and all that stuff, which is good. And it's family friendly, as ZZ Tesco says. Ark Hexican, Taryn, good to see you. Yeah, author to the resume. That's it. That's right. What's up, Nico? 2 a.m. here. Listen to Crypto Heartbeat. Thanks so much for being here. A 22-year over here. Hexaquin with the love. All right, folks. He's not only the CEO, he's the CFO, he's the CTO, he's the CMO, and he's also the other CEO, which is the educational officer, right? He is the professor of potent pontification. He's a gentle ginger giant genius. He's not internationally known, but he's also known to rock the microphone. He's my ace in the hole. He's my Kid Creole. He's my Bob Dole. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Crypto Heartbeat. Brandon from Rags to Riches.
What's up, dude?
What's up, buddy? You made my day today already. It's early and you made my day.
Yeah, some big shout outs this morning. Did you see my stream last night?
Which one? Oh yeah, with the fellows?
I streamed at about 1 a.m. Eastern last night. Did you know that?
I missed that, dude. You're up early then. What's going on?
So I told this story and I just thought you might appreciate this.
I will. All
right. So you've heard the whole how do you teach a kid to delay gratification? You use marshmallows.
Yes, I've seen those. Yeah, I've seen those videos.
All right. So, you got one marshmallow and you say, hey, kid, I'll give you one marshmallow now. Or if you hold off for 3 days, I'll give you 10 marshmallows. And the kid says, I'll take one marshmallow now.
Yep.
Okay. And then like a week later, you say, okay, I'll give you 2 marshmallows now, or I'll give you 20 marshmallows in a week. He's like, give me those 2. All right, here we go. What do you have? Right. You got, okay, marshmallows. All right. So here we go. Now you say, I will give you 3 marshmallows now, or I'll give you 2 bags of marshmallows in 2 weeks. And you ask the kid, what are you going to have in 2 weeks? And the kid looks at you. He says, diabetes.
It's the truth. It happened to me.
I'm sorry I had to do that to everybody in chat.
Awesome.
I'm so sorry.
So awesome. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Sorry, guys.
Well, that's a smart kid right there for you. Oh my gosh. So Brandon, I didn't tell you I was working on a book.
You didn't. This is what you do. Under promise, over deliver, man.
Actually, what's funny about it is I attribute my helper, my assistant, ChatGPT.
Yeah.
And so here's the cool thing I learned. I wrote this book in literally basically 2 days. I did a day of writing and a day of formatting, and then about an hour of design. What's really cool about this is, I went through this, history, almost to 500 videos on my channel now, almost 10,000 folks. And what's crazy is I think about all the things we've shared and what we've been a part of in this journey. This is a heck of a journey, Brandon. I mean, this has been unbelievable. And it's even getting better by the day. I mean, it's shocking. And it's just a reminder to you. It's like faithfulness, my friend, faithfulness, young grasshopper.
Yeah, man, it's neat. It's neat. And here's the thing, man. A lot of times things line up when you just make the right decisions over and over and over. It's all the small decisions that count, the day-by-day decisions that nobody hears about or knows about. And I think we're starting to see some momentum from that, Matt.
Yep. Well, a tree is known by its fruit, right? What are you producing? And I think that, anyway, I'm just thankful because, you get to a certain point in life and sometimes you try really hard and it doesn't produce jack.
Yeah.
Right. And there are other times where it seems easy. And I don't know what this falls into, but I would say this, you and I in separate ways have been, just consistent, kind of grinding some things out. And especially through the bear market, trying to encourage people and keep people motivated. And, to see these glimmers of hope, it's kind of a springtime type of theme. Here in Central Texas, it's March 2nd. We had thunderstorms all night last night. It's, you can tell there's more energy in the air.
Yeah.
There's some flowers popping up. It's a lot warmer here. And of course, this is more springtime in Texas. But it's so cool that we're seeing that also in the crypto market, right? Like the little bit of evidence, even though we've got this crazy thing going on with, what is it, the ETH being let out. Oh my gosh, like potentially could be a crash in the market. This could be that black swan event. What is it? It's isn't it a group of folks who have shorted Bitcoin?
No, so what this is, there's a Shanghai upgrade for Ethereum. Okay. And part of this, going all the way back to December of 2020, was the whole thing about locking your ETH up. Okay. So you could lock your ETH up if you wanted to be validator, this or that, 32 ETH, you lock it up. And what's going to happen with this upgrade is all that ETH that's locked up. And Matt, if I'm not mistaken, it's $26 billion worth of ETH
Wow.
that's locked up. Now, we would be silly to think that $26 billion is going to be market dumped. What if 5% is?
Yeah.
And we're at the bear market and people have been holding, it's been
And they need
locked up.
cash. Yeah.
You know, people are going to do it. So it's just something to look out for. It could be a nothing burger, but, you know, we need to talk about it for sure.
Okay. Well, there's also some folks who leveraged, and there's shorts and longs on Bitcoin as well. That was the thing I was referencing. But there's a lot. There's a lot going on in the market, and
Yeah.
but I do think that there's a glimmer of hope. You know, this idea that maybe we hit bottom, maybe we didn't. But really, in our community, which is really what we care about the most, is we've got Hex pumping to what, 7.5 cents right now. It almost hit 8, and that, I think, I just see a different change in people's attitudes. It's pretty amazing to see, like, people are being friendly again. It's so nice.
Well, and we talked about that. This is what happens. I've seen it so
Yes.
many times before, and everybody's going to be friends. And then the next bear market, the exact same thing's going to happen.
Dude, we got a couple people in here I just want to say hello to. Hex Farmers here, Arc Hexicans here, Rafoon LLC, man. Tex it, baby. Happy Independence Day to you. Hex Quinn and John May, dude. What's up? John May in the chat. Good to see you, buddy. It's awesome to see you. Need prayers. Hey, dude, we continue to lift you up, man. And that's the thing, you know, this community, you just never know. Sometimes you're on top of a mountain and sometimes you're at the bottom of a valley. You know what's funny is my grandmother, when I was 28, I came to know the Lord, and it was like this dramatic experience for me. And she pulled me aside and she like whispered in my ear. And this is, you know, she didn't die much, you know, many years after this, but she said, he's always been enough. And what I took from that is the fact that, you know, it's going to be okay, right? It's going to be okay. And regardless of what you think, you know, don't have fear, move forward. And I think that that's probably some of the best advice I ever got, is that when you're struggling, John May, and these things are happening, whether you're going through the heights or the depths, at the end of the day, what's this idea of, can you have peace in every situation? Can you actually bear this burden? We want to help encourage you. We want to help, obviously, divide your pain. But, you know, if there's anything that's consistent, it's suffering and change. And we got to understand, how do we deal with that? And that's honestly where faith comes in. It's just like, you can't do it on your own, man. You get to a certain point. I mean, when you're young, when I was young, dude, I was like, I can do anything. I got a hold of this thing. I can grab it by the horns. And then you get to a certain point and you're like, nope, can't do that any longer. And maybe that's just my midlife crisis.
No, it's like, you know, it's wisdom too. It's like, there's some things that you just can't resist the ebb and flow of time.
Yeah.
And the grand design, you can't resist it. If you do try, it's going to just make your life harder.
Yeah.
So you got to let go, man. You got to let go.
Well, I want to transition, and I want to share with you what I made. I want to share with you. I made something.
Yeah.
I'm pretty proud of it, dude. Like, it's pretty cool. No, I don't mean.
Okay.
I'm not going to give you a hard time. This is actually the book. This isn't me making fun of you, and giving you a hard time. Although that would be fun.
Par for the course.
Yeah, seriously. All right, so let me just let me share the screen here. So the book that's free, that's in the description, feel free to share that with anybody you want, and I will just tell you why I created it and what's it about. Okay, so let me share the screen. Can you see that? Okay, pull this off of there. All right, so this is I wanted to create something. You know, Brandon has created free crypto, mycryptoclassroom.com, okay?
Which we could upload on that as well.
Yeah, it could be a good resource on that. But I want to kind of walk you through why did I do this, right? So this is, I wanted to consolidate all of this thinking that I've been doing over these last several years into a document that could be a good resource guide. So this is really half like why and half like specifically. And so I'm just going to run through a couple things here for you. I really encourage you, if you know of anybody, especially somebody that you want to onboard into DeFi or the Texan token. So this is the Texan token edition. I anticipate doing a Hex edition, a Pulse Chain edition, a Pulse X edition, a Freedom Swap edition, and a Unifier and an Ophir edition of this book, and I'll continue to update it. But one of the coolest things is I use ChatGPT, and I'm going to tell you the power of it is unbelievable. And I'll probably do a separate video on how to do what I did, because if you learn the prompting, it gets really, really cool, and it's amazing what it creates. Okay, so there's an introduction to this. The chapter 1 is really all about crisis and this crisis era that we're in and the generations that we're in. We talk about money and the brief history of money. We talk about money and technology and progress and how all of this fits together. This concept of decentralization and why decentralizing everything could be good. Some warnings related to crypto and volatility, financial decentralization, what that looks like. Chapter 4, we relate to Bitcoin and historical information about the beginning of Bitcoin. We understand the difference between coins and tokens and NFTs and smart contracts. We talk about real world stuff, not your keys, not your coins. Ultimately, understanding, hey, when you're in decentralized finance, folks, you're making it, it's risky and you're in control. What's a crypto wallet? Basic things. MetaMask. How do I get it? Why use it? How do I get into crypto? How do I get out of crypto and back into cash? What's a DApp? And then we go into value, value being perceived in the power of narrative and story as it relates to that. How does crypto gain value? Good stuff to know about. This is just kind of like the wisdom stuff. How do I set up a custom token in MetaMask? People have asked me about that specifically. What's an automated market maker? What is a liquidity provider? What's trustless yield and why is it so important? What are immutable contracts superior? Why are they? How to get into regular DeFi? Why participating in DeFi is so important? And then we talk about the gains. Are there mad gains? No margin of omission. How to stay safe and secure. What's a hardware wallet? And then I go into the Texan token and independence and how that fits together, staking, endowments, your future. And then we talk about what's at stake, ultimately a unique time in history. And then ultimately give away what you want to receive, baby. So I think pretty encompassing, cover a lot of the content that you cover in the crypto course as well, because a lot of this stuff, history and all of that stuff is consistent. But you said this before, it's important for some people, I think older folks, to be able to print something out and write in the margins. Do you agree?
Yeah. That's a big thing for a lot of folks. Yeah. People are going to go to where they're comfortable.
Yeah. So I'm serving the older crowd here with a little, paper. You can print it out, but feel free to share that with anyone. It's on a global CDN, so you can share that link that's in the description. It's free, completely. There's no copyright or anything like that. Partly because I was reading some case law on copyright as it relates to AI, and you cannot claim ownership of anything that you've used AI for. And so that's going to end up going through the courts as well, because if you think about it, I put my own time and energy and effort to curate this content. Some of it's original, but most of it is actually what I've curated out of the web, like a step-by-step guide on how to add a custom token to MetaMask. Anyone can do that on ChatGPT, or they could go to the MetaMask website and look for it in the documentation.
Well, yeah, it's silly. You use a dictionary that's online to figure out how to write a book. Can you not claim that?
Yeah, and I think what's interesting though is this is going to be a weird. This is the beginning of a whole new era, dude. My daughter went to the SAT, right? She's doing SAT, and I thought about this. I see, and probably you see, that what we do in our human brains is we are compressing information, and that we learn this stuff from books and we get exposed to these things and we have a lab or experience or whatever. And then somebody tests us. How well did you condense this information and can you recall it? Right? That's the human brain. Well, these language models in AI have basically said, we're going to take the same concept of compression. And we're going to take this compression technology and we're just going to make all of this stuff available. And that's why ChatGPT can pass the bar exam. Well, if you think about this, the future is not about retention. The future is about prompting. It's really actually understanding what you want and asking for what you want. That's going to be the new skill. That's not about the SAT stuff, folks.
Yeah, and you know what was one of the things that I remember about the Navy? They're like, even if you don't know the answer, you need to know where to go get the answer or how to get the answer. That's the important part.
Right.
So these are just tools. Human beings will be best known for if an alien species is studying us, best known for creating tools to change our environment
Yeah.
or change our abilities. We're tool makers. That's what we do.
Yep. We have the ability to create. I mean, that's the difference, between us and the animals. And it's really cool. Your creative ability is actually what you monetize and create proxy for your labor. So, what's funny is really money is a derivative of your time and your creative ability. I mean, ultimately, that's what it is. You thought of the ways in which you could acquire houses that create passive income,
Yeah.
or whatever it is. It had to be formed in your mind, and that's something that's unique to you. And we create proxies and then derivatives on proxies, and ultimately, that's all the financial system is. It's a representation of it. So the power of DeFi and what we're talking about, talk about independence,
Yeah.
is this idea that we can consolidate in a group, in a community, and we can declare value just like they did. I mean, the interesting thing about the blockchain is that fiat currency by decree, based on national borders and a certain amount of dirt, is really what fiat is. You can't use Australian dollars in Central Texas. So we're just creating these digital countries with these communities who are declaring their own value. It is no different than sovereign currency of a nation. It's just an identity of a group of people that are just not in the same proximity.
I agree. Now, quick
Powerful,
question for
dude.
you. Yeah.
Powerful.
Would you be able to share my screen?
I will right here.
All right, guys. So we were just scrolling through this morning, drinking some coffee, drinking
Mm.
some Red Bull,
You may
whatever
want
you
to
got here.
zoom. You may want to zoom in on that, and I'll make it full screen. There you go. Okay.
All right. So if you go to etherscan.io and you go to
Yep.
Texan
Yep.
token,
Okay.
and you scroll down and there's a tab here that says method.
Holy
Okay.
crap.
So, we've got stuff going on, which is cool. All right. So I like to look at start stakes.
Yeah.
Well, here's a start stake that happened 3 hours and 32 minutes ago.
Oh my gosh, dude.
Somebody staked 15 billion with a B for 22 years.
Dang.
3 hours and 32 minutes ago. Now,
22 years.
yeah, and that's pretty freaking awesome. Now, what are the implications of that? And Matt, this is part of what I've been trying to teach people. It's the fact that when those are staked for 22 years, those are taken out of circulating supply for 22 years.
Yeah.
Now, with that said, what we want to do is go to texan.cc
Okay.
/stats. And I want to point something out here. Okay, so total principal stake. Now remember, folks, when we launched with 3 trillion. And the only way for that to decrease is if people stake. It removes it from supply. We've had 2,123,000,000,000 total Texan tokens staked in less than 60 days, which means our liquid supply is now down to 876 billion, which represents about a 72% decrease in circulating supply in less than 60 days.
That's insanity, dude. I did not think there would be so many. I mean, we're getting close to what, 4,000 stakers in 60 days?
Let's find out. Yeah, so it's right there,
3910.
3,910, and penalties burned. So here's the interesting thing. Everybody, this will basically say these are the amount of penalties burned, which represents the deflation. These will never come back into supply. Now, on one hand, you can say, oh, I wish I had a lot more penalties burned. But on the other hand, it shows me that people are saying, hey, this is the real deal. We're going to stick to it. This is awesome. Obviously, this is also reflected here. Total supply is now less than 100 trillion. That's the amount that ever could be minted. But our liquid supply is now 876 billion, and it continues to decrease. We have 3,900 stakers, almost 4,000 stakers. Now, I reran the numbers. At the beginning, it was different, but I reran the numbers. Looks like the average stake length, Matt, is right at 7 years.
Wow.
So 7 years average stake length right now. And I'd imagine, Matt, if people found out the true power of being able to scrape that interest,
Yeah.
that number is going to only go up over time.
Yeah. Well, and
Yep.
you think, yeah. If you look at, if you look at hexagons and staking ladders and you look at trustless yield, one of the things I talk about in my book is the power of staking and getting trustless yield. Trustless yield in this future, if you have enough principal, the whole point of anything with trustless yield, obviously Hex being the godfather of all trustless yield, is the fact that you want to think about, all right, how many T shares, what does that produce? And is that something that can basically secure my future? Of course, you have to set up staking ladders in order to sell and then to restake. But in a scraping scenario like this, you can theoretically lock things up and go, well, if I have a big enough bag, I'm going to have enough interest. And then that's what's so crazy about the future of a potential bull run is, let's say we get caught up in that excitement, which I assume we will. We're going to find that this trustless yield is going to be something that, that's why it's got 100 trillion. There's 100 trillion, but that's what gets reserved for you. And once it's done, it's over. And do you mind sharing your thoughts on this? Because you've talked about kind of being a land grab. This isn't like a constant inflation rate that never
No.
goes away. It is finite.
So I've said this many, many times, folks. In cryptocurrency, there's a narrative, and the narrative is if supply is constantly decreasing, or if you have a small supply, then it's going to create a supply shock. Now, I have never personally seen an instance where 99.9% of all the token have been held inside of a wallet that actually creates a real supply shock in that way. With Texan token, I think there could be that scenario. And here's why. If you guys take a look here, you look at an available endowment supply. You guys know what that means. That means that out of 100 trillion, and we launched less than 60 days ago, there's only 58 trillion 193 billion left to be claimed. Okay? That's massive. Now, why is that massive? It's because once this available endowment supply is gone, you will not be able to receive any sort of staking rewards,
Yep.
which is kind of crazy. Okay.
It is. And the neat thing about this number, as we look at, let's say we're looking back after 2 years, if we were to model this out, that available endowment supply is going to go up and down and up and down, because you don't know that's the cool thing about scraping. Let's say you did a 22-year stake on your principal, but you decided you were going to scrape monthly. Well, it's always going to constantly recalculate that number. And so that number is actually going to fluctuate quite a bit over the next
But
years.
the demand, the demand for that number. Now,
Yep.
what happens if there's not enough supply due to fluctuation and the demand is outweighing that by many, many more magnitudes of so that's what's crazy about this.
Yeah.
I think that when we look at bull runs and things of that nature, that number continues to decrease. The demand continues to increase, and people are staking and sending this out long. We're delaying these stake maturations. There's going to be years and years there where there's just nothing to get, which is pretty crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, and we estimated this when we started this process. How long would this endowment supply last? And I think based on our thinking, at least 50 years. But you make a good point. You don't know how big and how mainstream things get. I do like this idea though that it's unknown. That we reserve the total amount of rewards based on your principal and your stake length. We don't know when somebody's going to scrape or when they're not, or if they're going to hold out, but we reserve all of it up front. And so, there will be a point in which you'll hit the stake button and it will not be able to work because there's no supply to give as rewards. It'll be a while though. It really will be a while, but it's a cool function or feature.
I will tell you this, Matt, I'm surprised at how quickly that this decreased. The available endowment supply is only 58 trillion now. That does surprise me.
Yep. Well, a little shout out here to Hex Monkey in the house. Thanks for being here. Appreciate you being here. And look who's here, dude.
Brady Quotes, what's up, man?
Pretty
What's
cool,
up, brother?
man. I'll tell you what. You have like a bucket list. Do you have a bucket list, by the way?
No, I don't.
You don't have a bucket list?
Maybe like a running tab.
Yeah, in the back of your head,
yeah.
you're like, I'd like to do this.
Yeah.
Like I'd like to see the pyramids in person.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of something I'd like to do. I'd also like to spit some knowledge with Freddie Quotes.
What do you mean spit some knowledge?
Dude, I just need a beat, man. That's all.
Oh, see, I knew it.
I just need a beat. I was going to ask you about that. I don't know how to generate beats, but you
I
probably
know
got
it,
something
dude.
cool.
I'm a beat maker, man.
Are you really?
I can make those beats. Yeah, man.
I think it would be cool. I've been working on my 5 fingers of death.
Your 5 fingers of death?
Dude, everyone assumes that Crypto Heartbeat's a square, man. That's all I have to say. If you don't know what the 5 fingers of death are, you are not living, my friend.
Now, I know what they are, but that you misread me. It's coming out of your mouth. That's what
that's what's the shock to you. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Hey, look who's here. Finn Bear, hope your mom's doing well. Out of the hospital, that's good. The bucket hit rags in the tooth. Dude, they're giving you a hard time, dude. What's going on?
See, my wife beat me again, so I just got to put the tooth back in, man.
Dude, that's awesome. You're getting that work done. Well, you need the bull run before you fix that one. Happy Texas Independence Day. So this is March 2nd. So obviously July 4th is what we celebrate in the United States as Independence Day, right? Well, independence from Mexico in 1836 was on March 2nd. And this is when they got together and declared it. If you read the Declaration of Independence from Mexico, it looks a lot like the Declaration of Independence from, the July 4th, 1776. What's amazing about that is it wasn't long. It was about a month and some days. And it was April 21st. The Battle of San Jacinto is what won the independence of Texas. And it became a republic. And it was a republic for 9 years before Texas became a part of the Union. And so now you guys know this with the Texan token and our support, how we did token distribution was to support the TNM. Well, on Monday, I'll be live at the Texas Capitol building. We're going to be meeting with legislators. I'm going to be streaming live from there. There's a number of people coming in, Texicans and Hexicans coming into the State House, and we're going to be sharing with our representatives in Texas about giving the people of Texas the opportunity to have their voices heard. And what would you say to these people, Brandon? Obviously, you're not here in Texas, but what would you say to somebody if you were face to face with somebody that could make a decision on the referendum?
That's difficult, man. That's a difficult thing to say. I would tell them that they have the opportunity. You have the opportunity, sir or ma'am, to do something great. This is your opportunity right now. You have the opportunity to give the people the ability to make a decision. And these opportunities don't come along very often. And I would beg them not to squander that opportunity.
Yeah. Well, and you think historically, how many times, you probably are somebody, if you're serving in public service at some point in time, let's say you become a representative for the federal government or a senator, or, you find yourself in a position. I think practical people and smart people take it seriously, and they might understand some history and think about who came before me and what is this job like and what should I be doing and what is the gravity of representing people and taking it seriously. And I think a lot of times you might have this kind of glimmer of, I wonder if what I'm going to be a part of during these sessions is going to be historic or not. That's going to be consequential. It's going to matter. And when you do go into that, taking it seriously, I think it's amazing. Like, this is such a unique time in history that literally a decision that you make could potentially change the very nature of Western civilization, and literally for the better. And to think that you have that power, and if you were to, have some courage, that's what I'm hoping. And look what Freddie Quote says. He says, my bucket list includes praying with Crypto Heartbeat in the next meetup. But this is the thing that I'm talking about ultimately. And Freddie Quotes, we're going to do it. We'll do it anytime. You call me anytime. Let's pray, man. We don't have to wait till the next meetup. But this is this whole idea of saying, well, I don't want to be a part of anything that's just merely the muscles of men. I don't want to just tip over the tables for no reason. I don't want to just shake people because I need attention. I don't want to bust things up unless they're meant to be busted up. And I think that that's where you look at this and you say, hey, there's a time and a place for everything. Is it time? And that's where I think, regardless of what your faith might be, you realize that there's this like cosmic karma, some people will call it. But I would say from a faith perspective that there's a timing and a will. And we align with that. And I think that we get to this point where we see unrest in our world and we go, we have a responsibility to do something about it. You got kids and you're like, hey, what's the future going to be look like for them? We got to push back on this craziness. But where does that align with literally cosmic will and intention, or God's will, right? That's how I would say it. But like, I don't want to do anything that's just us, being rabble rousers, dude. That's not my interest.
No, man, it's not my interest either. Let me ask you a question, Matt. When you look at the broad swath of politicians and bureaucrats right now, do you get the impression that the people that are serving in public office actually have an understanding of what has happened in history, especially the newer folks? Do they have that burden on their shoulders to say, wow, this is a powerful position for me to be in? Do they take that seriously? What are your thoughts?
Okay. Maybe a response you wouldn't expect to hear.
Uh-huh.
I remember in 1996 when Clinton became president.
Sure.
And I look at that generation of what I would consider to be the hippies, right? So this was a real interesting time where these were the kids that were born to the Depression era folks, right? After World War II, they had gone through the Depression. I mean, think about what life was like when you're a kid. You grow up in the Depression like my grandfather, who was born in 1911. You go to World War II and you're worn out. You've been in deployment. You know what it's like to serve. And you come back, and of course, the suburbs, were born. And of course, the industrial nature of things, and things were growing and there was prosperity. And then people are like, man, I need a break. And so they had a bunch of kids, right? So 1945, 46, and then onward, this baby boom generation happened. And of course, if you look back in history, you see people talking about the fact that kids are to be seen and not heard because they were tired. These people were like, I have been beat down all my life. We didn't have enough food. We didn't have enough stuff. And then we had a war and my friends died, and I don't want to talk about it. Just leave me alone. Give me a case of beer and shut these kids up. And so what ended up happening was there's a group of people, and to me, Bill Clinton is the representation of this. Bob Dylan and all these people that were speaking out against these old people, right? You're just these old, stuck in the mud people that represented this old thing. We're the new, and you're not paying attention to us. You're not listening to us, and we're a massive group of people. And then you saw the drug culture come in, and you saw the 60s. And I think what ended up happening is, people that didn't know their history and didn't understand the gravity of it basically took over. And you think about Woodstock, and you think about music, you think about drugs, you think about all this stuff. And there was a decadence to this because no one was basically saying, sit down. Like,
Right.
No, let me tell you what's really going on. And so what did you have with somebody like Bill Clinton? Bill Clinton, in my opinion, represents this, I didn't inhale, this like, and I almost see it in Obama a little bit as well. It's like, it's my turn and I deserve this. And it's an entitlement kind of concept. It's like, but because I don't really have a connection to what is fundamental to the founding or whatever, I'm going to go with these new ideas that have not been tested. And I think that birthed what we have today. So I think it's the lack of judgment. I think it was the way in which people were just like, hey, I want to get my thing now. No one is paying attention to me. I'm going to get my thing now that I'm in power. And they disregarded historically what has made us sound and stable. And now what do we have is we've got now we had the 1980s and the absolute, cocaine fueled decadence of hostile takeovers and, financial. I mean, cocaine is probably the best, ultimate common denominator and all that stuff that created yuppies and then latchkey kids, which, I look at, Gen X as that. And so I think that eroding of the family, the eroding of people's lack of interest and knowledge in historic things and responsibility, and then probably the biggest thing, which is political service as career. And that really had become like, you would stay in the Senate for 40 years, right? It was a job versus service. And so I think we lost our way, and now we're just basically experiencing all of the symptoms of that problem now, and it's coming to a head. Everything's degraded. The family's degraded. There aren't fathers at home. There's all kinds of things. And what are the results of that? And we're paying the price for it now. And I think that that's what's driving. So to answer your question directly, I actually think there's some younger people. I think there are some Gen X people, because you see them in our popular culture. You see Joe Rogan, you see Russell Brand, you see Elon Musk. These are Gen Xers. And how do they talk? They're like, hold on a second. We're not just partisan. We're like, well, what makes sense? Because we know things are wrong. Now, I'm not saying they're perfect or they got the right ideology. But then you look at people that are younger and millennials now coming into service, and you see people and they're like, hold on, this isn't right. And it's almost like we're getting back to this on what is right and wrong. So that's probably more than you expected. But
no, it's interesting that you say that, because I've seen some articles about like kids between the ages of 20 and 30.
Yeah.
Because of all the, like you said, the extreme decadence and the like, I guess, lack of morality, immorality, and this and that, these kids are looking at this and saying, wait, I'm gonna rebel against that. I'm gonna get back into church. I'm gonna understand what's happening here. So it's very interesting for me to see how this ebbs and flows. And I think that we're in a major transition period, in not only the long term, but also in the short term. We're like at this pivot point right now.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to see what happens with this.
Well, and then you add all of these, it's just like we see the same symptoms in the financial market as we're seeing socially. If you think about it, I think there are people who are deep thinkers like, Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum and these people that see the threat. And they're like, we had this opportunity to clamp down on this thing, but it's squeaking out, right? Trump was an example of that. It's like, hold on, we don't know how to control this thing. And now we've got Bitcoin, Ethereum, we've got, trustless yield as it relates to, smart contracts. We've got communities that are growing up and declaring value. And it's like, hold on a second. Pandora's box is open and we can't control it. Well, what are we seeing? The rise of authoritarians going, well, we need another crisis. I don't know if you've been paying attention, but it's been seen as a conspiracy theory up until now, but the lab leak theory that has been confirmed by the Department of Energy
and FBI director 2 days ago.
How crazy is that? Okay, so now we think about this. All right, so it came out of a lab. Okay, confirmed, which we all pretty much knew. The question was it intentional or not? And let's say it was accidental, and I'd give you the benefit of the doubt. Well, if it was accidental, we need to get to the bottom of and hold people accountable to this accident. Okay, if it's intentional, it is the single largest crime against humanity of our known history. I mean, 7 million people. And in the beauty of this, if you think about those that are kind of centralized planners, what a brilliant means by which you can either reduce population or lock people down or reset the economy. And I think that this is a go-to plan, right? Hey, we tried this one out. It was just, well, now we just dial it up. Let's make it more deadly or whatever it may be. And to think that we're still funding those things, it's a whole new era of control and engineering and social engineering. And that's why, I think some people are like, yeah, Texas independence, you guys are dumb. And what's funny about that? I go, if you really understood what's at stake here, you might not participate in all of this stuff, but you're going to be damn glad it's here when the shit hits the fan.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to hit the fan. You're going to have a digital ID. You're going to have a CBDC wallet. You're going to have a social credit score. And you go like, well, no, I need to be in a vertically aligned ecosystem that's outside of this, that has privacy. Hello, Richard Hart. He's been preaching this stuff way before us. This is huge, dude. Like, this is potentially securing and protecting a group of people in the future.
Yeah, I want to take everything that Richard talks about, and I want to take it to the next level, because you make a really good point, Matt. When the shit hits the fan, what's one thing that, now, if you look at my Twitter, I ask people, I said, boil it down in simple terms. What do you want out of life? And I got tons and tons and tons of responses. People just want to be able to work, to be able to make money, and to be able to provide their family and have safety.
Yeah.
Are you going to get those things in that type of environment that you're talking about? No. So what's the next logical question that people are going to ask? Where can I go to get that?
Yep.
That's why this is so important, because there is going to be a place where people can go, and we're supporting that. And it doesn't seem like a viable solution or alternative now, or when things are really good. But like you said, when things continue to slide and slide and slide, people are going to start looking at this as a viable solution.
Well, and what you said this very, very early on in our discussions when we were talking about just doing this with the TNM. You said people have to be provided an alternative.
Yes.
And I think you're absolutely right, is that, you might not see it as an alternative now, but let's just say your neighbor's got a tornado shelter, right? It's got one of those underground deals where it's got a, locking lid or whatever. We had a tornado come through Central Texas here, and we had some friends that were literally in the line of the tornado. And we were kind of freaking out because they're really close friends of ours. And we called them because it literally like passed over their house. And they said, oh, we went over to the neighbors because they had a tornado shelter and we hid out there. Well, boy, you're probably glad your neighbor's got a tornado shelter as an option for you when a tornado comes through. And I think the same thing is true here, is like, where do good people go? Like, where do you go when it gets crazy? And I think that, we're always going to be here working towards this alternative, but there's going to be a point. It's almost like a switch is flipped, and you're like, all right, what's the alternative? Let's go.
Yeah. And this is nothing new, Matt. I know that Daniel talks about it in his book. He says this is nothing new, but when you really look at history, we talked about this earlier, there is an ebb and flow to things. Things rise like an organism, things start to deteriorate, and then they fail. And the question is, if you're looking at that on the grand scale of time, then what's going to be the next play here? What's going to be the backup plan? And they certainly have no problem screwing us in every single way, up and down, financially, socially, morally. But people are going to get upset with us when we say, hey, wait a minute, we're going to kind of support things that push back against the stuff that's stealing from us, and have stolen from us for the last 100 years, for example.
Yeah.
So it's a different era, man.
You know what it reminds me of is it reminds me of the Hunger Games. The Hunger Games as this distilled example, or the Matrix. But this idea that there's people that are off in a city and they're far away and they've got all the money and they're decadent, right? And they look crazy because they just have extra time and a lot of money and resources that they have basically taken from the people. And the people are in these districts kind of far away, isolated from, Elysium, right? This place up in the sky, or, the centers of control. And if we look at these things and we compare them, well, we have a problem with decisions being made out of Washington, D.C., because the differences in Albuquerque and Central Texas and Boston are different. And so this idea that, well, there's not a one size fits all. And so the founders of America understood this. They said, hey, that's why we're going to decentralize, give away this control to people. And here we've consolidated it once again. Well, now, if I think the far left had their way, they would give over war power, the military power and legal power to the United Nations. They'd give it to Davos when they say, oh yeah, we need a universal rules. If you look at the G20 and you look at what they're talking about with regulatory as it relates to crypto, and they want to be able to have, people basically, no matter where they live, you can't literally get away from them. Well, that's in effect a one world government. And that doesn't give you alternatives and doesn't give you options. And That's why I look at Texas independence. And, everybody's got a different thing that blows their hair back. It might be a social thing. It might be Second Amendment. It might be, I don't know, family. It may be fiscal stuff. But at the end of the day, I look at Texas and I go, somebody's got to be able to show others that it can be done, meaning you can push back and you can understand that there's no authority over your God-given rights. They don't come from the state. And I think most people that are just kind of going along to get along, watching CNN and just, the Today Show, what they're basically saying is, well, yeah, why would you want to just like go along with this stuff? They've got our best interest in mind. And what you don't realize is that, you don't see it. And there's a moment in which it all folds in on itself. And we've seen this happen before. I mentioned that movie from 1947 called Don't Be a Sucker, which is literally this cycle that happened last time. And it was the Nazis instead of the globalists. And it's like, pay attention, folks, pay attention.
Dude, the Nazis. And then you've got Maoist China, and you've got Stalinist Russia. And then you go back and you study what happened with the Greeks and the decadence and the immorality, and you study what happened with the fall of the Roman Empire. They had many, many years under monarchy where everything was just peachy keen and great, and then it falls apart. So ebbs and flows to this. But here's what's interesting too. You see these days that they're replacing religion with science. They're saying that science is infallible. When you look at science, think about the amount of people that have died at the hands of scientific discoveries in the 20th century compared to religious situations. Think about war. Think about nuclear warfare. Think about all of these things. Now, what happens is they're going to replace religion with science. When things get really bad, again, it's just crazy. The pendulum swings back over. People are going to look for hope somewhere. We're going to come back to religion. They're going to come back to God. When things are bad, that's all they have to latch onto. So, I think that we're beginning to see the transition towards that, because they understand that when power is centralized, people lose liberty. And it's happened so many times in history.
Well, one thing that I always want to push back on is I think that there's this common understanding of religion as being this singular thing, and that it is equivalent to science. And I think what's really interesting is if you think about this, and a lot of people don't think this way, it's like you're unique and you don't have to look around too far to realize that you're not a dog, you're not an animal, you are unique in this world. And I mean this by humans, right? People. Your creative ability, all the things that have come from this, which science is a derivative of, right? This idea of saying, all right, let's just examine and be curious about this, and let's formulate it, and let's categorize it, and let's look at it and test it. That is a function of our creative ability. It's who we've been made to be. And if you start thinking in terms of, hold on a second, what you're getting at is this idea of transhumanism. There's been a real challenge in history when people have made themselves out to be gods. And I think the transhumanist movement, which is really comes out of, this whole eugenics movement, but this idea that, hold on, we can use science and technology, we can worship at that altar, and we can create our own eternal life. I mean, there's stories in the Bible about building the Tower of Babel, that we're going to reach these heights of which we are gods. And we see people doing this. And this is the secular religion, right? And religion is something that you do religiously. But if you actually look at the foundations of this, when you go back to the garden and you understand that there's good and evil, and that you have this knowledge of both, but you have a choice to make, that you realize, hold on a second, if these things are broken and wrong, there's a point in which it's made right. And I think everybody's like, well, yeah, I want to go to heaven and it'll be great in heaven. Well, what does it take to go in heaven? If heaven is a place of holiness, of purity, where there isn't this brokenness and corruption, then there's got to be justice in the system, because there are wrong things. And the whole transhumanist group basically rejects that and says, you know what? We're going to print our own organs. We're going to reduce the population. We're going to create our own super race. We're going to merge with technology, and we're going to live forever and be the new gods. And I would say this is the demonic story of evil. And that's what it's saying to you, rather than recognizing, hold on, you only have breath. You only woke up this morning because the very nature of this place. You are not promised anything. And if you don't recognize that you did not create yourself, and you start humbling yourself and going, hold on a second, there may be something else at work. Well, you don't have to look too far. 2017, the New York Times came out and said there's stuff in our skies that are every single day operating at 10,000 Gs that are from some other creative force beyond us. And so, everyone has been told, well, we're just accidents. We just came here and fell into this. You were a monkey and now you're a human that can, create blockchain contracts. You go, hold on a second. There's more to this story than you know. And the answer isn't, in my opinion, building the new Tower of Babel. It's recognizing actually from whence we came, which is our creation and what, the foundations of it. And that's what I think you're getting at ultimately is these ebbs and flows. We come back to the basics.
Yeah.
And we have to. It's time.
Yeah. And you remember the story I told you about walking in downtown Vegas and seeing all the opulence and everything just looks amazing, right?
Yep.
And everybody has their jaws dropped and they're all fancy and they're dressed up and they're just pointing and taking pictures and I just had just that feeling that I'm like, man, this means nothing, right? Yep. It seems to me that society these days, in removing the thoughts of God from people, it seems to me that everything that they do is trying to remove the idea of death from people's minds.
Yeah.
Because understanding death and accepting it is probably the cornerstone of wisdom.
Yeah.
And the more that they can get people's minds off of the fact that they will die one day, the easier it's going to be to control them, because everything at that point is about feeling comfortable, all right, and feeling good. And who cares about all this stuff? We can save you. Don't worry about that. That's how they shift us away. They shift us away in that way. If we could snap our fingers right now, and I could ask for one thing, if we could snap our fingers, everybody in the world would have a 100% understanding of what death is, because with that would become wisdom. And with that, a new filter through all of our actions would occur, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, it says in the Bible, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. And I don't know if you've ever been in a situation where you've had reverent fear. I think the more and more you mature in your faith, the more and more you come to this purity or holiness, and you just go, I am wrecked by it. And you're just like, Peter, James, and John went up the mountain with Jesus and he was transfigured, and Moses and Elijah appeared. And what's amazing about it is the disciples were like, hey, we should build like a tabernacle for each of you. And what was really interesting about this idea is, and a mentor of mine said this to me, he said, they wanted to create a tabernacle for each, Jesus for Moses and for Elijah. And who did Moses and Elijah represent? The law and the prophets, which was everything in Jewish culture. And what happened was a voice came from the heavens and said, this is my son of whom I'm well pleased. Listen to him. Which basically the disciples were wanting to make these things equivalents. And what basically the Father God from heaven said was, listen to this guy. And what's amazing about that is that's where I look at things and I go, hold on a second. We don't live on bread alone, but out of every word that comes out of the mouth of God. This is not a religion. When you understand the foundations of creation and you recognize it, it's not about what you do, right? A lot of all of this stuff is, well, if you're a good boy and you don't do these things, you follow the 10 commandments and you obey all this stuff. There was a thief on the cross who recognized who Jesus was. And what did he say? Today you will be with me in paradise. He didn't say, oh yeah, you got to get down and get baptized and cut your hair, make sure you get cleaned up and, make sure you apologize for these things. No. This is work that's been done. And to me, that idea is so foreign to the idea of religion, because that's what man has put in the way, right? You got to do these things. And so many things have been done in the name of the church and Christianity to literally control people. It used to be the state. And when you really boil the stuff back down to this idea of liberty and individual, it says, hold on, no, Brandon Davis, you are valuable. You are a son. You are an heir. You are going to inherit. You have a role to play. And that's, if there's anything I want to share with people in all of this, is why are you going to have a bunch of money with Pulse and PulseX? Why are you going to, your bag's going to be huge with Texan or whatever it may be in this future? Why you and not some hedge fund manager guy? This is a total decentralized, it's changing. It's a transfer to a group of people that hopefully will make a good choice with those resources.
Man, the more that I read about history and how the financial scheme of things has changed the landscape, the more that I really think, Matt, that what we're playing in right now, the playground we're playing in, is going to have massive governmental implications moving forward into the future, because this changes absolutely everything. People can create their own economies without outside, influence. So, it'll be interesting to see when we get old here. I know you're old already, but when I get old, it'll be interesting to see what happens with all this.
Well, just keep the toothpaste off of your chin.
And keep the tooth in my mouth.
That's right. That's right. It's awesome. This is awesome. Folks, thanks for joining the Crypto Heartbeat today. A couple things just as a reminder. It's Texas Independence Day. March 2nd, 1836, Texas became independent. They declared independence and then won independence on April 21st, the Battle of San Jacinto from the Mexican army, and the capture of, it's just an unbelievable story that you should know about. But we celebrate that today on March 2nd. 2, I released a book that's free. It's called Unlocking Generosity, and it is a version that's been set up for the Texan token. It's free, and it's in the description. Feel free to share it with anyone, but it's really meant for somebody that's like, I don't know anything about DeFi. I don't know anything about, crypto stuff. Why in the world should I care? What's this all about? And that's what that, ebook is all about. So feel free to share that to anyone at any time. Download it yourself. I think you'll be pleased with it. And I'll say this, there's an Easter egg in it. And that's all I'll say.
What, do you put seed words or something in there, man? What's that?
No, I'm not that clever. Nope. There's an Easter egg in there. So I just encourage you guys to take a look at that, share that. I think it will help folks. And on Monday, I'll be live streaming from the Texas Capitol. Hopefully, Brandon, you'll join for a bit. Hopefully, we'll see some Hexicans and Texicans there at the Capitol building when we talk to these folks who are considering supporting the referendum. But this is a exciting time. And then we've got all kinds of crazy news. We haven't talked about it in a long time. Freedom Swap, Unifier, our efforts. We're doing a private placement, talking to investors about this next phase of tying together all these communities that we're tokenizing. And on Sunday, I think what's going to be happening. Do you want to share that?
No, dude, you're on a roll. Go, brother.
Okay. So I believe on Sunday, we are going to be announcing the beginning of Ophir. That's the next project in the Philippines. So John is going to be the one that announces that. And I believe that's going to be on Sunday. We're going to know a lot more this afternoon. But folks, things are heating up. Do not lose hope. Thanks for joining in here. Brandon, thanks for your friendship and all that you do. And special thanks to Hexy Quinn. She knows why.
Good job, Hexy Quinn.
Yes. Take care of yourself and do not mess with Texas, folks. Happy Independence Day.